Whenever you're ready, man. You're on now.
Alright, sounds good. Yeah, so as I was telling you, my family and I were originally from Venezuela, and my parents were diplomats, and we moved around a lot, many different countries. So growing up, before I started university, I went to a bunch of different elementary schools and high schools. Like I think I moved at least 15 or 16 times, which is a lot for a kid my age.
Right.
But when
those were inside the city or just like all over?
Internationally.
Internationally.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so my parents, everything was going great. And when I turned 8, and Chavez was already in power, he started to persecute a lot of people that didn't agree with him politically.
Okay.
So me and my family were actually like exiled from our country, and the only place that opened its doors to us at the time was Canada. And my dad came here on a job offer. We had to sell everything we had, whatever little we had, in like a week or two. So we came from having a lot to coming to a country where we didn't speak the language, and we essentially had nothing.
Right.
And we started out in Toronto, which is probably like one of the hardest cities to start out in. And of course, you don't know that the first time coming in.
Right.
But we made it. My dad started his own business. He does a lot of consulting for oil companies, and it took off. And the next thing we know, we kept traveling the world. So I've essentially been everywhere. I've traveled to Singapore, the United Kingdom, Japan, North Africa. We've been in Saudi Arabia. Like I've been everywhere. Moved around a lot, which was terrible. Always exposed to new cultures, new languages. I think it was always rough making friends, just because you knew that maybe they weren't going to be there for too long. Right. So at some point, I think I became really distant with people, which was kind of like a detriment to myself. Mm-hmm. But now, looking back at it, growing up, I really hated it. I envied my parents. I was really angry. I always said I never had a normal childhood. And now the benefits that I've had from being exposed to all these experiences has made me into a really well-rounded individual, and I'm reaping those benefits. I feel like I have interesting topics of conversation, especially when you're having a job interview. That's something really cool you can throw around and just say that you've been to all these places and you can speak all these languages, and that's always really, really fun. And I think now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever had the chance to thank my parents for the opportunities that they gave me. And it's certainly something that I need to rethink. I don't know. But, at the end of the day, I think life is about the experiences. A lot of the times, I think we close ourselves off to moving somewhere new because we are comfortable. And I find that with a lot of people here in Windsor, they tend to just really find themselves that this is a really safe bubble to just grow up and stay in. And they don't want to leave because they're afraid of what's outside. I always encourage people to try something new. It's always a good idea to just be able to experience a new thing and try out something that may be outside of your comfort zone. And it's a perfect way to be able to, grow as a person and see new things. So.
All right. So how did you end up in Windsor, man?
Great story. So my parents needed the easiness of having to travel the world. And it's so much cheaper to fly out from Detroit than it is to fly out from Toronto. Right. And Windsor, back in 2012, whenever we moved here, was super cheap. You could buy a house for like $500,000, and it was a nice house. You know what I mean? Right. So my parents saw it as a great investment, and they bought a house. They moved here, and it was great. It was actually, it's funny the way life works out. Just because my parents and I, growing up, we had like this really sheltered experience of, my parents were always very overbearing. So Windsor became the place where my dad would leave on business trips and we would get to stay, me and my mom. And so I managed to grow up in Windsor. I would say it's a place I've been at the longest, most continuously. I went to university here. I studied political science. And I've managed to grow and actually make connections. Like I said, I used to see my friend. I can call her my friend, you know what I mean? I've known her for at least a couple of years. And so that's been great. And when my parents finally decided to move to other places and finally continue on with their lives, I was able to say, like, I'm independent now, I'm an adult, and I essentially just kind of like parted ways with my parents.
So you're here without them now?
I'm here without them now.
Okay, so now you go back to like you were talking about the Windsor comfort zone thing, which is totally true for whatever reason. What's your plan? Are you're not gonna stay here? You're not gonna do what you think. So what's the next step?
Not at all. So funny story. I've been to all these places, and I'm gonna tell you, I love Windsor. I absolutely love Windsor.
Okay.
Windsor is quiet. It's small. I think one of the issues is that there's nothing. There's
it's so strange, but I've noticed like people from Windsor fucking hate Windsor.
Yes,
they hate this place.
That's so true.
But people who've lived outside Windsor, such as myself and many other people I've met, for whatever reason, have this weird affinity towards Windsor and think it's like the greatest place.
That is so true.
But I don't know why. Like you said, there's nothing there. But
there is nothing. There's no opportunity for growth. And I found that. So right now, I finished my master's. I finished my undergrad.
Okay.
And now I'm working. So I'm working for an American company, and I'm working remotely from home.
Okay.
And eventually, that's gonna open back up again, and I'm gonna have to relocate to their headquarters, which are in California.
Okay.
So once that happens, I'll be moving on.
So you're off to Cali then?
I'll be off to Cali, just moving on to that next stage of my life. And Windsor will, like I said, one of my favorite places in the world. This place is really special. I think people take it for granted. And like I said, having been one of the places I've been at the longest, I've seen it change. And you probably have as well. You've probably seen how much it's more crowded. There's more people, and it's just not the same as it used to be. I don't know, like a couple years ago.
Right, a little bit, yeah.
And I also see that Canada is not a good place for me to start out. In the sense that right now, like rent-wise and trying to find a place to like live, it can be quite pricey. And the States is actually more accessible in that aspect.
Even in California.
Yeah, like I'm looking at numbers and it's very, very accessible. And the company like that I work for, like they provide a lot of leeway with like giving you access to like rent and places and stuff.
So here's my question for the political science major then. Sure. What do you think is the difference between Canada and America for that, what's causing this?
That's a great question. I think a lot of it has to do with the ability for businesses to be able to grow. I think Canada is a very difficult place, and Windsor is a perfect example. Growing up, there was like this little plaza that I used to go have like lunch with my mom all the time. And in the 6 years that we were here, there's been at least 4 or 5 restaurants that grow that in that specific plaza, in the same establishment. So it's changed from different owner to different owner because they don't survive. I think Canada is a really harsh country for people to be able to create businesses and become their own entrepreneurs and their own bosses. And I think the U.S. Policy-wise does allow for people to be more independent and to promote growth, and hopefully that changes in the near future. But
you think that Canada is not business friendly?
I don't think so.
Could you point to one specific thing that's maybe causing this, or is there even one specific thing?
I think it's the process. The process of getting started could be quite tough. You need to have a lot of checks in regards to having a specific loan. When the loan is prepared, I think as well when you think about it, the certifications that you need to have as an individual in order to get your business started can be quite costly if you're looking to make that investment. And what we see is that here businesses in Canada for the first 4 to 5 years, they're not making profits on the sales that they're making just because of all the loans and the debts that they have to pay off before they start seeing profits.
So you think there's a lot of bureaucracy similar to your native Venezuela, perhaps?
100%.
I see.
100%. 100%.
All right.
And I don't know, just to leave it on this note, I think things aren't always what they seem. I feel like people like to talk about Canada as one of the greatest countries in the world. And it's a country that's provided a lot of people and afforded a lot of people many benefits and freedoms. But I think people are kind of taking those for granted and not realizing that there's a lot still left to fight for and a lot still left to improve. It's not good to be complacent.
I 100% agree. I could not agree more. No. You said it best. Nothing to add.
So I hopefully, with a new change in leadership, and the way that people are growing and what's going to happen, hopefully there's a nice change. But for the
if there's a change in leadership.
If there's a change in leadership.
I've kind of lost hope in all what I've seen in the last year, man. I'm like, it doesn't even matter who it goes to.
That's
it doesn't.
Right.
They're all
right.
fucked. So,
that's right. I completely agree. 100%.
I guess that's what makes you a libertarian. Just
Yeah.
Call them all out for all their bullshit.
Exactly. No, I completely agree. 100%. 100%.
It is
And,
what it is, man.
Politics wherever, it's dirty.
Yep.
And that's exactly what
man,
it is.
if I could prove that to people I talk to.
100%.
So you can try to reform the system, but
That's right.
there's a fundamental problem.
That's right.
Anyway,
That's right.
thanks a lot, man.
No, thank you. It was
I'm
a
glad a
pleasure.
poli-sci major is saying this. This is fantastic to hear.
No, thank you so much for having me, and I
Yeah,
wish
no
you the
problem,
best
man.
of luck on everything.
Take care.